Hey, one more thing before you go. Have you ever wondered how jewelry and gemstones can help you connect with your soul? Do gemstones have healing properties? In this captivating episode, we're going to delve deep into the enchanting world of gemstone jewelry, its profound connection with the soul. Join us as we explore the mystical properties of gemstones, their healing abilities, and the positive energies they can bring into your life. I'm your host, Michael Herst. Welcome to One More Thing Before You Go. My guest in this episode is Donna Wallace. She's a healer and the founder of the House of Orion. With over 25 years of energy healing work exploring many modalities, Donna has been on a mission to find the most powerful and effective techniques for people to heal and evolve. She's on a mission to raise the vibration of the planet, all her inhabitants and habitats, and does this in a unique way through jewelry. Donna inspires people to follow their intuition, sharing the truth of how uncomfortable it can be, but also how wonderful it is to live in a really unique and a soul-led life. You all know I believe in soul, mind, body, and soul. She also helps people discover their perfect soulmate, creating jewelry that helps them blossom into their full soul potential. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
That's a lot of soul.
That's a lot of soul. Bring in all the soul today, Michael.
Exactly. We're here for soul. We're here for soul. You know, I what an amazing journey that you've been on in regard to this. I have admiration and empathy and love for anybody that wants to connect people's mind, body, and soul. And I feel that we as human beings need to do that more often. And I love that you want to take care of our Mother Earth, where we live, and how we live here, because I think she's being forgotten and kind of pushed aside. So first and foremost, thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for that acknowledgement. I felt that.
It's interesting how, I mean, people have been wearing jewelry. They dig up tombs in archaeological finds that are 1,500 years, 2,000 years, 2,500 years old. And what do they find within all of those? They find jewelry. So people have been wearing jewelry forever and a day. So I know, it's not just about looking good, though, right?
No, and we know from all of that history that ancient civilizations have used gemstones for particular purposes in particular ways, and for healing in different ways as well. So this is, I like to say my jewelry is like old wine, new bottles.
Old wine, I like that. Old wine, new bottles.
Yeah.
This works.
It does.
I like to start at the beginning. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, where you grew up and what your family was like?
Yeah, sure. I grew up, so I live in Melbourne, Australia, or outside of Melbourne, and I grew up in a place about a little over an hour outside of Melbourne, in a place called the Dandenong Ranges. And it's called the Ranges because, well, actually the locals call it the Hills. And so it's this beautiful range of Australian eucalypts and, different not tropical, but cool rainforest species, and is this beautiful community and amazing place to grow up. So I spent my first 20 years of life there, and grew up with my mum and my dad and my brother, and that was for the first 20 years of my life, and then everything changed after that 20-year point.
It sounds like a really wonderful place to live, actually.
It was magical. Truly, It was magical, and the trees and nature were my refuge.
And I think a lot of us, when we do see Australia, a lot of us see what we see on TV, and a lot of it's kind of a deserty, dusty, dirty, or the other end of it is, of course, watching Crocodile Dundee movies and things like that, where we see swampy and alligators and things like that. But this is nice. This is a nice part.
There are so many different ecosystems within Australia, and such a big island, and so much diversity within our ecosystems and wildlife and landscapes, and it's just, you could spend more than a lifetime exploring it and never see it all. Absolutely.
Did you go to college or university?
I did actually, and I did it in a way that I didn't really want to go, to be honest. My parents wanted me to go to university. I didn't know what else I was going to do with my life, and so I ended up studying horticulture of all things. Um, it probably sounds like it makes sense with my love of nature, but I just did it because I really didn't know what else to do, um, and I was fascinated by the biology and ecology and the way things worked and the way things grew. And yeah, it's a part of me, I suppose. It's a part of my history, it's a part of my story, and my career took very interesting and wildly different twists and turns after that.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be, when I was in grade four, so what was that? I must have been about eight or nine maybe. I wanted to be a rock star and a doctor.
All right. Oh, that would have been, see, that would have been a nice little intermix. Do we know
Yeah.
any rock star doctors?
Well, I do believe that some of our musicians are healers. So, yeah, I do think there's a crossover.
Well, you know something. Yes, you are correct. And in studying the creative arts for healing, music is a healer.
Yeah.
Um, at what point you said you went to school for horticulture? Did you take a
hmm
position in horticulture, or did you? How'd you get into where you're at right now, for example?
I was working in a plant nursery for a while. Is that what you call them in the States? Plant nurseries?
I believe so. Yeah.
hmm I was working in there for a while, and then I went traveling across Australia to Western Australia, actually, and I worked in vineyards and did traveling like backpacking style for a while, and then basically gave all of that up, but retained my love of nature and plants. I came back to Melbourne, and yeah, I ended up in jobs that I didn't love because I didn't know what else I was going to do, and I was like lost for I don't know, a long time, more than a decade lost, trying to find the right job, trying to find that path of fulfillment, trying to find that the answer to the question mark that I had in my mind, which was, it's got to be something more than this, right? I want to feel happy. I want to feel fulfilled. And I don't know what that is.
I think we're kind of all stuck there at some point in our lives. You know, we all have a direction. I think society sometimes puts stuff onto us that
Yeah.
society and cultures both, that have these expectations that you need to go to college or university, you need to get a job, you
Mm.
need to get a house with a little white picket fence, you need to have 2.3 kids, and you have to follow this line of what you need to do. I think sometimes we lose our direction and maybe sometimes what our purpose is in life.
Yeah, and I feel that for some young people, we don't know what that is yet, and
Yeah.
so if we accept that cultural norm of going to university because that's what our family says we need to do, maybe that was the right option for me at the time. I'm not sure. It certainly, I am where I am because of my past and my
Mm.
family and everything like that, and yet no one would have known that I would have taken a course in my life like I have. Not my parents and not myself. And so there is something to be said for us as families, as a culture, to really support people's uniqueness and individuality, and not just passion, not just following a passion and not just being purposeful, but finding the intersection of work that is profitable, that also
Mm.
fills our hearts and souls. And I'm really passionate about that for people. Like, I really want people to be on their soul path because I know firsthand what that misery is like when we're not in that space. And I also know what it's like when you're trying to find it and you don't know what it is. As I said, I was in that space for a long time too. But I really hope that the way that some of us are becoming conscious parents, that we can really tune into the intuition and to really listen to our children and start to try and elicit by asking questions and tapping into their inner knowledge and wisdom about themselves and why they're here, the big
Yeah.
question, why they're here, to help facilitate that path for people so they're not lost for decades like I was. So I hope that us as conscious parents, as a more conscious community, can be having conversations in a different way with our kids around career paths and, finding that intersection
Mm.
of our genius zones with how we can make a living and really contribute in the world in a powerful way. I hope that that is what we're all creating together.
I would hope so as well. I think, we all want to be happy with what we're doing, and we all want to be content in how we're contributing to the world and our environment and our communities and
Yeah.
society as well. So yeah, I think that it's interesting because I think, dare I say this, I'll say it out loud again. I've said it before. I think when COVID hit, it was kind of a double-edged sword. It it everybody thought normal was to get up. My wife and I get up 4:30 in the morning because she has to be to work at 7 in the morning. She has to drive an hour and 15 minutes to get to work. So we start very early, and then she spends all day in work, and then she's got an hour and 15 minutes home. And
Mm.
by the time she gets home, through traffic and everything else, it's late. So we have a late dinner, and then we watch a couple hours worth of TV, or if we don't fall asleep on the couch, then we're into bed and we're back up and doing it again in the morning.
Mm.
COVID allows us to pause and really estimate and think about what really is normal. So she
Mm.
got to work from home for 2 years. And because of working from home for 2 years, it allowed a 30-second commute from the back patio where we got to go out and have a cup of tea in the morning and talk to nature and listen to the birds and watch the sun come
Mhm.
up. It was a 30-second commute. And then when we got to have lunch every day and watch a little funny thing, you're going to laugh. We watched things like American Dad and little, just a little 30-minute thing to make us laugh, right? Family Guy,
Yeah.
and then 30 seconds back to work. And then when she got off, it was 30 seconds back home. It was
Yeah.
fantastic. It made
Mm.
an opportunity for us to really understand maybe this is normal.
Mm.
Maybe a good
Yes.
work-life balance is normal. In that
Yeah.
even if you don't like what you're doing, having a work-life balance can make you happy.
Yeah.
In that work-life balance, sometimes what they think is normal might be something different normal for us. And I think you help people
Right.
to understand that we can find balance. I think from what I've learned about you, you help people to find that balance in what they're looking for so that they can understand their soul purpose, because we all have a soul purpose.
Yeah. Well, I think that balance, Michael, comes from when we listen deeply. When we're connected with our souls and we're following our intuition, I think that balance is a natural outcome of that. I think there are a
Mm.
number of outcomes from that. Our intuition increases. We find we make changes that are really aligned with our values. And yeah, I feel that COVID, that the pandemic was a gift in many ways. It was challenging, of course, that goes without saying. But I also think that anything that was out of alignment became really obvious during that time. It was like somehow there was a spotlight shone on our lives, and we had to examine what was working and what was not working. And for you and your wife having that glimpse of, well, it wasn't a glimpse, it was a 2-year glimpse, a 2-year window into her not traveling to work every day, sounds like it was blissful for you both. And so I feel that at that time just really highlighted what worked and what didn't work. And yeah, actually, it was through that time that the House of Orion came in for me. So I had been doing energy work for a really long time, and as you know, for over 25 years, but within my business for over 7 years. And there was an element of what was working for me in that business and also what wasn't working for me. Don't get me wrong, I still do energy healing work and still support people, but there was yeah, my soul was asking for something else to be birthed in that time. And I don't think that I'm the only one, Michael. Have you also heard of lots of people starting businesses and new ideas during the pandemic?
Absolutely. I think that I think what they call it, there was masses of people that left work, and
Yeah,
and those individuals realized that they were missing something there, and
yeah.
so many other people started. Well, actually, even podcasting. When I
Yes,
first
I've
started
had lots
podcast,
of yes, yes,
y
lots of podcasts were birthed in that time. I actually think the
yeah,
pandemic was a portal. There was an opening. There was an energetic opening on our planet at that point in time. For some people, that meant making very difficult decisions to leave jobs because they didn't want to comply with vaccinations. Well, that's what happened in Australia anyway, the compulsory vaccinations to retain particular jobs. There was a mass exodus in lots of jobs in healthcare and teaching and all sorts of, places where people left because they felt that there was a misalignment with what the government were asking them to do and what their body was saying, no, this is not right for me. And so that, but then also this magical portal, like there was this energy that was present during that time that allowed new ideas to come in and to be birthed, and that was really exciting.
Yeah, I think that.
In hindsight.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think, and it was all over the world. People were able to do that all over the world. I think people took the time to say that I think I'm going to follow my dream or my passion, and
Yeah.
it gave that window of opportunity to say I don't want to be doing that anymore. This is what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
When I started podcasting, there was 876,000 people podcasting. Now there's 5.4 million.
No way.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
it is.
I
It
had
is
no idea. 5.4 million people podcasting.
Yeah.
I mean,
Now,
anyone really can start a podcast these days, can't they, Michael? But
well,
having said that,
dare I say,
I'm not a podcaster, but I'm sure it takes something to run an amazing podcast.
not all those are great
Naughty.
podcasts. Not all those are good podcasts.
Yeah.
But people at least tried. They made the effort. And I think in making an effort, it gives them an opportunity to explore. And where before they weren't able to explore. So this gave a door that opened that gave the opportunity for exploration. So I know you said a little bit ago and I know that you were doing energy healing for 25 years. What kind of energy healing were you doing? Can you help us understand what energy healing is and maybe how it's applied?
Well, it's applied in different modalities. So in that regard, it's brought through or conducted or facilitated in different ways. But I think at the end of the day, probably it all has a very similar thread, which is bringing through pure love or source energy for people and beyond people. We know that this works for environments, for plants, for animals, and beyond. But I feel that it's basically how can we be a conduit to allow divine or source energy to come through for the benefit of someone else or something else. And so where did I start? I started with Reiki. I was introduced to Reiki when I was about 16 or 17. It was the first time that I received Reiki. I will always remember this experience of someone putting their hands on my shoulders, who became a dear friend of mine. And it was the first time, Michael, that I ever felt like I was at home in my physical body on this planet Earth. It was a completely new and yet very old and familiar experience of a homecoming for me. And so Reiki was the first modality that I learned, and then went on to do further training and of course became a Reiki master and all the things, and have taught Reiki to people over the years. Other modalities that I've studied are color therapy, holistic counseling, family constellation therapy, an element of shamanism, how to become a medium. I've been trained as a medium, using all the different levels of intuition. I mean, crystal healing, sound healing, the list goes on and on. And really what I was searching for was something that would help me fix my problems, Michael. At the end of the day, I was just really wanting something that would make me feel better, something that would make me feel happier, something that would help me let go of trauma that I'd experienced in my life, help me understand who I was, something that gave me that sense of, well, at the beginning I really wanted ease. And then when I found ease, my search went on for something a little bit more like searching in the name of bliss. What could heaven on earth here feel like? What could that truly feel like as an experience in a human body, living a normal day-to-day life? Like, what could that feel like? And so I guess my my search has predominantly been about fixing my problems and fixing my own issues so I could feel happy.
I think it kind of all starts there. I follow Bruce Lee. I'm an old guy, and I follow his philosophies in many things. In regard to find to find purpose, we need to find ourselves.
Yeah.
Is what he said. So in finding ourselves, we have to find out what works for us and what doesn't work for us.
Mm-hmm.
So what you just described there is an opportunity that you were able to find yourself and fine tune what you wanted
Yes.
to bring to the world, and to fine tune your gifts and see how you can parlay them. And obviously, what you've
Mm-hmm.
taken that is into a new direction with gemstones
Yes.
and jewelry and things like this. How help us understand, if you will, please, the process. Or let me do this question again. Can you introduce us to gemstone jewelry, and how that connects us to our soul? How did you discover that?
How I discovered it was visions dropping down to me one after the other. Some people call it intuition. Sometimes I call it divine downloads. But I was in a session with my mentor, and in that time, I could feel before that session that there was something that wanted to come in within my business. I knew that there was another idea, a course. I didn't know what it was exactly, but I could just feel this um, like a
Eh,
pregnant pause. And I could feel that there was something there that wanted to come in. And so when I went into that space with my mentor, what happened was my business told me, and I was communicating with the soul of my business. I believe our businesses also have souls and that we can talk to them, and that basically we're here to facilitate what it is that they want to do, which also is very healthy and good for us. Um, we could go down a rabbit hole talking about that, but we won't, Michael. Um, but what I had was a vision dropping in one after the other. And the first vision that I saw was a person's hand, and I was kind of out in the stars, out in the universe. I know this sounds a little abstract, but I saw a ring with a large color gemstone slide onto someone's ring finger. And when that happened, I saw light, like electrical currents, run from that person's hand up their arm into their body. And then I saw their energy field or their aura turn on, like bing, like it just started radiating and shining really brightly. And I was like, what is this? What is this? So unexpectedly for me, the soul of my business told me that it wanted to start selling products. And that was something that I never in a million years thought I'd do. I had a service-based business. I had deliberately, consciously avoided products and MLMs and all those sorts of things. And I was very surprised to have this new direction come in of my business wanting to create products. So what I got from the vision, Michael, was that gemstone jewelry can energetically activate us. And I was then shown how to do that and how to create that.
So if I can ask you, when you were talking about the soul of your business, prior to the jewelry thing, you were still doing your energy healing business. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So, so then you got this vision. In this vision, then
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Hughes, did you have to go out and explore and kind of educate yourself and do some research to find out what worked and what doesn't work, and how did you learn how and what gemstone works for, like, what? Let me try that question better.
Yeah. I know what you're asking.
I'll just let you answer that.
The question is how, right? The question is, how did you do that? And
Yes,
how
how'd you
did you
do
do
that?
that in an industry or a realm that you haven't played in before, Donna? Isn't that the question?
That's exactly
And
the question.
it was the biggest question that I had at the time. I was like, Spirit, soul of business, what are you telling me to do? Have you got the wrong person here? Because I don't know anything about jewelry. I mean, I know what I like, I know what I don't like. I've had my
Yeah.
own limited personal experience, but like, I don't know anything about jewelry. Um, But what I do know is that when my intuition says something, or when I get something like messages that are that clear and that feel that amazing, that I have to follow it and I have to explore it. There's just not, even though I was completely doubting myself and didn't know where to even begin. Also, then what I got was, okay, where to begin, Donna? You need to find a jeweler, you need to figure out how to source gemstones. And basically, I followed the breadcrumbs of taking one step after another. And with the gemstones, it might surprise you, Michael, that I don't prescribe. So I prescribe gemstones for people. I do. I can feel what gemstones are the right gemstones for people and what would activate their energy fields. But it might surprise you to know that I don't use particular types of gemstones for particular people or particular issues. So, for instance, even though we know that, let's say, a sapphire, a blue sapphire. We commonly know sapphires as blue. They come in all sorts of colors, though. A blue sapphire could typically, you would say, be really great for intuition and perception because it sits in that royal blue vibration or spectrum, color spectrum, and is a match to our third eye chakra. So typically, anything royal blue, you could say, would be really good for intuition. And so one of my customers came to me and said, Donna, I really want a ring or a piece of jewelry that's great for intuition. What would you recommend? I don't actually say a sapphire. Or I don't have particular gemstones that I use in that way. What we do instead is I kind of have a completely different approach to how people buy crystals and gemstones typically. And that is, my first step before anything is we figure out, what is your energy saying and what is your soul saying? What does your soul want to experience in your life? How does it want to express itself? What does your soul even feel like? What is the essence of you, and how is your soul uniquely you? This is a process of understanding yourself on a really deep level, Michael. So you get a sense of who you are in perhaps a way that you've never had before, never felt, never known, never seen, never experienced before.
Just, I hope I understand this. So, do you read people's auras, and based upon their
Mm-hmm.
aura, then you can connect
Yeah.
them with what gemstone you feel that would work best with their aura?
Yeah. So let me be really specific then. What I do in the first step of my process is I offer people free 10-minute energy readings. And in that energy reading, I look at your aura. I tell you what colors I can see. I tell you what is specifically that means for you. And I give you a sense of like what I can see as who you are as a soulful being. And then I also try on different colored gemstones in your energy field, and I look at what happens in your energy field with each of those gemstones, and I say, oh, I like that. Oh, I don't like that for you. This does this for you. This kind of stone does this for you, but actually this is what I want for you. So I've got this, I kind of can feel people's, I can feel people's souls, and I can feel what wants to happen in their energy field as part of their growth and ascension. And that's a pretty cool like trick to have in my back pocket.
It's a really cool
It's a
trick
pretty
to
cool
have in your
party
back
trick,
pocket.
Michael.
That's a really cool
um,
trick to have. Yeah.
yeah. And so then when I have people that say, oh, Donna, I just love that. I know that I'm meant to have a piece of your jewelry. Okay, great. So the next step is you have a blossom session with me. And in that session, I'm not doing the energy reading. Actually, what I'm doing is guiding you through a very deep process for you to connect with your soul, for you to feel the unique qualities of yourself, for you to feel how your soul wants to grow, for you to feel how it wants you to experience life. And it's in that blossom session that usually, almost always, my customers get a sense of what color gemstone it is, and if it's in a ring, and which finger they wear it on, or is it a pendant. And then after that, I know I'm giving you a lot of information here, Michael. Then
That's
after
okay.
that, I go off and intuitively choose gemstones that match that vibration that that person connected with as their soul. And this is why I call them soulmate stones, because I get that energy, that frequency, that
Right.
feeling. And I find the gemstones that would activate that in a person. So then my customers then choose their gemstone. They know when they meet it, it is a soulmate experience
Very
of
cool.
sometimes it's love at first sight, and sometimes it is they've got to get their head out the way to let their soul choose the right stone. You know, we all go through that process sometimes. Get our head out the way so our heart or soul can speak. And then we go through a design process, and the creation of the piece of jewelry is then handmade by my amazing jeweler who's also in Melbourne with over 30 years experience. So they're just next level gorgeous, amazing creations that are designed to be heirloom jewelry passed down to generation and
Right.
generation. Like, I hope that my great grandchildren are wearing my jewelry, and that it is still like primo condition, and you know that they can remember, oh, my great 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 grandma Donna, this was her ring and this is what it did for her, and that's what it's doing for me too. um, and so, but then once that piece of jewelry is made, I energetically work with that gemstone and that piece of jewelry to make sure that it's activated for that person and
Mm.
brings in the energetic qualities that we had talked about in that blossom session that came through. And so it is a complete custom process, and that's why I call it custom made for your soul.
Well, it's very interesting and unique that you are able to see people's souls and how they connect. Because I mean, everybody knows, at least the ones that are watching and listening to this and that know me. I believe in the soul. I believe we all have a soul, and that soul is infinite, and that in order for us to be able to connect with our soul, sometimes we miss that opportunity. Sometimes we get so caught
We
up
do.
in life that we don't
Yes.
really stop and take the break and the breath to really understand or connect with our soul.
Right.
And
And sometimes that feels a little bit scary or
yeah,
challenging to really go there. And yeah, it's like the most rewarding thing in the whole world, I think.
I'm going to ask a very bizarre question, but I think you'll understand it. I know that I just had a couple conversations on my show where people were talking about um, karmic karma that's been following us, whether it be attachments to our soul as we come forward in life,
Mhm.
or we move through our soul patterns, that we have karma that happens to attach to it. Is this
Mhm.
something that you come to your understanding as well? And do these gemstones happen to help with clearing, let's say, negative karma?
Oh, that's a really great question, actually. I think that we can clear karma, absolutely. And yes, I think that we come in with a certain amount of come in. What I mean by that is we incarnate as a soul into this human body with a certain amount of learnings that we want to go through, or things that our soul has chosen that is for us to experience in this lifetime. And I think that we can clear that. And I think that we can also, I mean, what I mean by that is I think that we can clear the stuff that would otherwise hold us back. I think that we can clear things that don't serve us. And I think that we can create a space where we are free to pursue the best possible path for ourselves. And my jewelry is acts as a north star, Michael. So rather than addressing, so what I feel is different about my jewelry as a healing modality is that we can heal through beauty, and that we don't need to go through all of the heaviness and all of the let go of all of, like, without having to go into all the crap and the drudgery. I feel that um, healing can be done in a completely different way, and that my jewelry is a new paradigm of that. It acts as a north star for people. So it acts as a north star, guiding light on your soul path, where it takes you down a particular path that is the brightest path for you, the most joyous path for you, the most love-filled path for you. And my jewelry energetically is programming that into you as you're wearing it. So do I believe in karma? Yes, I do. But I also believe that we can program ourselves, and we can in my case, I use jewelry to help program people to have the most joyous, love-filled, amazing, blissful lives. And that's why I say in some of my messaging around my jewelry is like, let's experience heaven on earth. What would that be for you as an individual? And let's play in that space.
Which is
Does
brilliant.
that
I think,
answer your question?
yeah, I think it is too. It's brilliant. Can you help us understand some healing properties of gemstones? I know that before we start this conversation, I told you I grew up in an area where they have a large Native American
Yes.
community, and they believe in, for example, turquoise, and the
Yes.
turquoise can heal them in certain ways, keep them healthy
Yes.
and so forth. Can you help us maybe understand a little bit about the healing properties of gemstones in general?
Yes. So, as I said before, one school of thought is that particular gemstones and crystals have particular healing properties. And I also have a piece of Native American jewelry with turquoise and silver from when my dad traveled to the States many, many years ago. It was one of my first pieces of jewelry, actually. So there is that connection there, woven thread in our conversation and my past. But the healing properties of gemstones. So, you know, there are some gemstones that really want to do things for you. And there are some gemstones that kind of want to be left alone. It's like, same with crystals. And I listen to each. Okay, this is going to sound pretty weird, Michael, but we're out there and I'm going to just keep going.
This podcast is from the mundane to the metaphysical. So
Yeah. Well,
it,
here we
it
are
here we are
out
in the
there in the
metaphysical.
metaphysical space, yes.
Exactly.
And so I listen to gemstones. They speak to me. Every gemstone has a potential, and every gemstone wants something. It either wants to be left alone, wants to be put back in the earth, or it wants things for people. So I've seen gemstones that want to bridge love between two people. I've seen gemstones that want to activate this incredible, like, experience of my customer feeling completely loved. Like, when you're looking at a baby and you're like, oh my goodness, you are the most gorgeous thing in the whole world, and you're putting your hands on your face and you can't stop kissing them. And could you imagine how loved and adored that baby feels? I have a gemstone that I'm working with currently that wants that for my customer, that wants them to feel like the most loved and adored and cherished being in the whole entire world. So that is one of the stones that my customer's chosen. Another, so they all want different things. Every gemstone wants something, and also, like us as individuals, we have soul potential. We have a possibility of our greatness, you could say, and gemstones also have a possibility of their greatness. They have a particular soul mission, just like we have particular soul missions, and a lot of them, there are, okay, actually, I shouldn't say a lot of gemstones want that, because when I look at gemstones, I have sorted through and sifted out so many gemstones before I get to choosing the right ones for my customers. So there are some gemstones that are like really special and want specific things and really want to work with humans as well.
Now, what's the difference between a crystal and a gemstone? My wife has crystals that
Mm-hmm.
she has five, six, I think six of them, six different crystals
Mm-hmm.
that she keeps and holds and has in a little bag, and then she puts them out during the like a full moon
Full
or a blood
moon, yeah.
moon or a blue
Mm-hmm.
moon, and she lays them outside for a while, lets them energize and things like that. Is there a difference between a crystal like that and a gemstone?
Yeah, there is a difference. And gemstones for me are, um, so how do I explain this? We all know what crystals are, and we've also seen jewelry with crystals in them. The gemstones that I work with are faceted, so they are shiny like diamonds. They are a higher quality, and I'm talking about that from a physical perspective or what a jeweler would grade as higher quality. They're not a rough stone, they are a stone that is moving into that higher end jewelry market. So a gemstone to me is something that can be is high quality and typically faceted. Not always faceted, but in my space, they're always faceted.
I'm sorry, did they carry the same energies?
They can. They can carry the same energies, but so when I'm looking at gemstones for my business, for my customers,
Right,
what I'm looking for is the highest quality stones that I can find, aesthetically, the most beautiful stones,
right.
cut with amazing symmetry, so it gives more sparkle, beautiful color, like, yeah, just something that is really radiant. But then
Right.
also, what I'm looking for is that energy component. So, what I want is the highest quality and the highest vibe. I don't want jewelry that's just really pretty and beautiful because the market is flooded with that. I also don't want jewelry that is low end, that's going to break, that's part of the fast fashion
Right.
movement. I want something that's part of the slow fashion movement. Handmade things that are made to last, but then also have soul behind them. They feel amazing, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, what's that on your finger, Donna?" But they can't stop looking at it, and they don't know why. Actually, if they tuned in, they probably would.
You also put a connection. I mean, it's a like, I believe in connection with everything. I think everything has got a soul. I talk to my trees, I talk to my plants,
Yes.
I go out and talk to my bushes. I talk to
Hmm.
the birds, the bees,
Hmm.
enough where they come flying around me, they don't bother me. The bees will
Yep.
come, like, say, "Hi, how you doing?" We keep the doors open sometimes, so they'll come flying through the house, and then they'll come back out, go right in front of our face like, "Hey, thanks," and go on about their business. Same
I
thing with
love that. I'm very much the same.
hummingbirds, same thing with hummingbirds. They'll go from the bushes, then they'll stop in front of us, they'll kinda say, "Thanks," move to the next one and go on. So I believe in that.
That's
I
so
believe in it
gorgeous.
wholeheartedly.
I wish I had hummingbirds here.
So you guys don't have hummingbirds in Australia or just in that area?
Not down here, or at least I don't know. Maybe we have them. I don't know if we have them up north. Maybe.
Huh,
I
that
have really cool Australian native birds and wildlife down here, though.
well,
Amazing bird life
that might
where I
make
live.
up for it.
Yes, it does.
Uh, but yes, we do love
Sorry,
our
I did.
hummingbirds. It's nice because when we sit back on the back patio and they come up and say hi and kinda thing, it really makes you feel good, because
So
they get
special.
right up in your face almost to say, "Hey, thanks," which is
So
kinda cool.
cute.
So, I do believe in that, and I believe in,
Mhm,
I understand the connection that you are doing when you connect a gemstone with somebody's soul because you
mhm,
obviously connecting it with that individual, and, I've wore jewelry that I put on for a little while, and it was like it felt negative to me. There was like a
interesting.
negative connotation to it for some reason.
Mhm.
But I've also worn jewelry that went that's valuable to me. So
Yes.
I understand the connection with that. You can feel it. You can see it from that perspective. That might be because I'm a little more open with my intuition or my believing in that matter. I guess I'm
Mhm.
more spiritualistic. I do have a wide. I believe that the earth is completely talking to us, and we're talking to it. And I
I
believe it's
agree.
saying, "Help me," like I said
I
earlier to
agree.
you, because it's being strangled. And so maybe because I have a better connection from that perspective, is why I listen to even something like jewelry or gemstones being able to connect to us. So earlier we're talking about the connection with this, like your soulmate. Uh, when you talk about connecting soulmates, are you talking from a perspective of connecting gemstone soulmates, or does the gemstone help you bring, like you said earlier, this is what brought this question up. You said earlier there was one that wants to bring these two people together. So,
Mm.
how does that work? I mean, is that just innate within the energy of the
Mm.
gemstone that says, "Hey, I think these two people need to be
Yes.
together"?
Yes, it's innate within the gemstone of the energy of the gemstone, and also I've had one gifted to someone else as an engagement ring, so there
Oh,
was that. But I have had one of a customer who, so she started the process and she hasn't continued on, but she is like, there is a stone that wants to help her find her soulmate. So there's that too.
there-
Actually, I've had two customers like that.
three of cool. That's very cool. I
Yeah.
think. You know, I think
But what I was actually talking more about a soulmate stone, and yeah, between
and,
a person and a gemstone. But yes,
so,
sometimes the ones they want to help you look for love.
so they both work.
Yeah. All
uh,
of it, yes.
yeah, we all want to find that one person that that we know that we're a soulmate with, and that we've been through previous lives with. And those of us that happen to find it, I think that we're lucky in the fact
I
that we've been
agree.
able to do that and achieve that, because
Very lucky.
it's a wonderful feeling, and it gives you contentment and happiness, and you have a better understanding of how good life really is. Um, what do you think? How can gemstones? How can picking the right gemstone or jewelry for us to wear? How can that transform our life in not like a glamour way, Hollywood glamour and walking the red carpet, but how can a gemstone really help us to transform our life in a positive way?
Oh my gosh, Michael, when you asked me that question, I was just covered in shivers and goosebumps. Something about the way that you asked that, I was like, oh, yes. So thank you for the question, first of all, but also the energy behind it. I can speak from my own experience if you would like.
Absolutely.
When I chose my own ring, so I have an aquamarine. For those of you who don't know what aquamarines are like, they're like a pale kind of turquoisey blue, some brighter than others. When I chose my aquamarine, the message of my stone was, this is what I got, like that there was a big hand above me with like a finger and a forethumb wanting to come down and pluck me up of my current experience in my life and drop me into a completely different realm of like a different life experience. Um, and so I could feel that my ring wanted me to have an elevated experience of life. It wanted me to have a very different experience of, and when I say very different, let me qualify that. It wanted me to have a different experience of life than what I was having. And yet I already had a beautiful life. So I already have my husband and my children and live in a place that I really love. And I was already doing work that I loved. But the way that my life has changed since I've been wearing my ring is actually, for me, quite unbelievable. Um, I have a sense of happiness that I might cry, Michael. I have a sense of
I
happiness.
I I will take responsibility for that because they're happy tears. See,
Yeah, happy tears. We're good for happy tears. But like the happiness that I have is different than what I've ever had before. Like I have an increased baseline of happiness within me that I don't have to meditate for an hour in the morning to be okay before I get up. Um, it has also given me a sense of lightness and connection with other people through my work that I never expected I would have. Never thought actually I would be having conversations like this with you, Michael. Like this to me is such a great joy. My work has facilitated, and my ring is connected very directly to my business. And because, of course, my ring is about my soul path and my business is about my soul path. So I can almost use the words of like my ring was a gift or an expression of my soul, but also for me personally of my business and what I'm here to do in the world. And I have that feeling of like it's elevated my life experience. It's I feel like I've got so much more light in me than I ever had before. And there's like a sense of fun. Like I'm so much more able to have fun in my life. And I've found other things that I really, really love. And I've like kind of set myself free, given myself the permission slip to pursue that. And It does feel like my ring is like, help me let go of all the baggage that was holding me back, and just given me like this beautiful, beautiful experience of life. And maybe people from the outside in my world might not see the difference that I'm talking about, because maybe they saw that on the outside of me before anyway, but my inner experience is very different. And also, well, actually, that might not be true. People probably seen like me on my business journey, and my business is growing. But yeah, sorry, Michael, that was a complete ramble and download of
That's okay.
my personal experience. But I believe that this jewelry, it changes people's lives in a subtle but really powerful way.
Well, I know it's. I think that having a transformation like that is profound, and it can happen in different ways. And those of us that have had that transformation and have the recognition are grateful for the opportunity that the universe gave us to be able to open our eyes and our
Absolutely.
intuition for that. And I know you
Yeah.
talked about intuition before, but um, with the fact that you deal with it on such a significant basis,
Mhm.
um, can you give some tips on maybe how we as individuals can recognize and put to use our intuition, or how to trust? I guess would be a better question. How to trust our own
Yes.
intuition. As a cop, I can tell you that I relied on my intuition each and every day that I was out on the street.
I could
So,
only imagine.
yeah, it allowed me to survive and come home.
Yeah.
So, I understand the connection with intuition, but I want others to feel the same thing. Could you help us with
Yes.
some tips with that?
Yeah. So what you're talking about is a real gut instinct, isn't it? When you are out
Yes.
on the street in your role.
Oops.
And so for us, for people who aren't in life and death situations every day, maybe we have intuition come in different ways, or not such a body gut experience like you had, or have. Okay, so let me just say, when you are tuning in, you ask a question and you get an answer, it's always the first answer that comes through. That is your intuition. The next voice that you have, which is like, but was that my head or was that my intuition? Is that right? Or am I just making that up? Is that what I want to hear? Or is that actually my intuition? Um, the first thing that comes through is almost always, in fact, I would go so far as to say always, your intuition. That first thing that comes through, trust that. Um, and I feel that trusting your intuition happens over time. It happens when you, A, not only listen to your intuition and get that first message, but then also follow it. There's two steps in the intuition process: listening and following. And when we follow our intuition and it works out really well for us, or it takes us down an unexpected path that our soul wants us to go on, and gives us things that we would never otherwise had, then we're like, oh, hang on, this intuition thing, maybe it's a good thing. Like, maybe it works really well. Maybe I should try that again. And so trusting your intuition is really a process of building muscle like anything else. It is listening to your intuition and not ignoring that message, actually doing the thing. And I think that there's two spots where people get stuck. As I said, that first one of not sure if they're not sure if it's actually their intuition or not. And then the second part is having the courage to follow it. And that is a big step, because sometimes our intuition takes us into really uncomfortable places. Like, my intuition told me to create a business about jewelry that I had no idea about. I was like, are you crazy? But okay, all right, I'll try it on. Lucky I'd had some practice building my intuition muscle, Michael. But it is definitely uncomfortable and sometimes very challenging, because we know when we're out of alignment and our intuition is telling us that, like, that we might have to make some changes. And so it can be wildly uncomfortable and challenging,
It can be uncomfortable and
and
challenging.
yet
Yeah.
bloody amazing, right? When we actually give ourselves that gift of following our intuition. To me, my motto is following our intuition
Mm.
is the greatest act of self-love.
That's pretty
It
profound. I like
truly,
that. Yeah, I like
yeah.
that. I remember my teachers used to always tell us, when you're taking a test, and you sit there and before you look down at your answers, and your first thing comes to your head usually is the right answer. When you start going, well, maybe it is B, or I don't know, maybe it's D. You start messing with that. You start messing with what is really right and what's really wrong, and it really interferes.
That
But in
is so
reality,
true.
what you first looked at was the right answer in the first place.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us, you hit it right on the head, as the old cliche says. I think that a lot of us hear that little whisper in our ear, and we kind of go, "Was that real? Was that really something talking to me? So was that really what I'm
Yes.
supposed to do?" But
Yep.
once we take that step and you realize and start trusting it a little bit more, the more you trust it, the easier it gets. The easier it gets, the more you do it, and yeah, it's a wonderful
A
thing when you
beautiful
can
upward
understand.
cycle.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just a
works really
beautiful
well.
cycle, right? Yeah.
I know that we're almost running out of time, but I do, if you don't mind, I do have another question. I
Please.
buried it in my notes. How can we discover the truth about who we are as soulful, unique beings on this planet? Um, I think that's that was suggested on some of the paperwork that you sent to me, and I looked at that question. I thought,
Hmm.
what an amazing question. So I will pose it to you. How can we discover the truth about who we are as soulful, unique beings on this planet?
We can listen to ourselves. We can listen to our intuition. Yes, to discover who we are as unique, soulful beings, we can listen to our intuition and we can let go of walking the well tread path, the path of the shoulds and the expectations and the cultural norms, and we can do what our soul is asking us to do. We can do scary things, we can do uncomfortable things, we can follow our intuition that shows following our intuition takes us on this path of uniquely becoming ourselves, uniquely becoming our unique selves. We can follow a path that is different, that is meant for us. If we can block out all of that noise and all of that distraction around us and follow our intuition, then it will take us to this place of truly becoming who we already are. It's like we've just got to get rid of the noise and we've got to get rid of all those layers and we've got to get rid of all the energy blocks and all those things. But truly, you can find yourself by listening to your intuition, and that will take you exactly where you need to go.
It's amazing. See, at the end of the show, I always ask like words of wisdom. And now I'm gonna have to tell you beforehand. I'm going to ask you that, so because what you said might be just that. Um,
I don't think I've got any more words of wisdom.
so we may have to
Hang on,
use
let
that
me keep
one.
talking. I'll find some more.
Just say refer to what we said before.
Yeah.
How can somebody find your website, and how to get some help from you?
Thank you, Michael. You can find my website, the House of Orion, which is the House of Orion.com.au. And on that website, you'll find the first step, and that is to book a free energy reading with me. It's a 10-minute energy reading, and it could very well change your life. And there are no strings attached from my end with that. People know whether they're meant to have a piece of jewelry or not, but it is one way that I can share my gifts with the world. And everyone who I've done readings for have given me amazing feedback and told me how profound it was to be truly seen in that way. So you can find me there. And if you want to have a look at some soul bling, some of the sparkly beauties that I've created, you can have a look at my Instagram page, which is also the House of Orion, but you'll find links to that from my website.
Soul bling. I like that.
I call it soul bling. All the pretties.
Can you say your website out loud, please?
thehouseoforion.com.au.
And I'll make sure there's links of that in the show notes so that we can absolutely get people connected with you. And for the benefit of everybody else that's out there, there's your Instagram. So when you're looking, you
Thank you.
can find her right there as well. Again, thank you very much for reaching out and connecting. I'm so happy that we were able to finally accomplish this. We had a little hitch in getting together, but what an amazing journey, an amazing conversation. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Hey, Michael, is it okay if I share one last thing?
Absolutely.
We've talked a little bit about our care for Mother Earth and creating something special on this planet. And one of the things that came through as part of the House of Orion is that I've created a crystalline grid using all the pieces of jewelry, all the pieces of House of Orion jewelry, and that around the world. And so my initial vision was pieces of jewelry being made, and then I could see lines of them being shipped out all around the world. And what my customers come and are a part of is what I hope to be the world's largest crystal grid. I call it the House of Orion Crystalline Energetic Grid. And every 6 months, my customers come into a complimentary live online call with me. And I've programmed this grid to support the ascension of Mother Earth and all of her inhabitants and her habitats. So energetically, there's a beautiful crystalline grid that we are working on and supporting the ascension of the planet through our jewelry too. So there's a bigger piece of purpose, if you like, around the work that we're doing.
What a brilliant idea. What a brilliant opportunity to have. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you had to say that. I'm glad you put that together. That's pretty cool.
Well, again, I was just given the divine download. I was like, well, that sounds amazing. I could never have come up with that idea.
They say,
do that.
They say that there's a magical grid that surrounds the Earth anyway, and you've connected to that in such a way that it connects all. Yeah, that's just profound. I am going to ask this anyway. This is one more thing before you go. Are there any words of wisdom that you would like to share? I know that you just said something amazing a little bit ago. So
please follow your intuition. Please let your eyes sparkle. Find that part of you that can be uninhibited and let your energy, your unique self just glow and radiate, because we need everyone in that place within themselves on this planet. So if you're listening, please follow your intuition and please let yourself sparkle and glow and radiate.
Fantastic words of wisdom. Thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to meet you, pleasure to get to know you, and I get a pleasure to share your journey. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Michael. I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And everybody else that's out there, please, who are listening and watching, I got my head going somewhere else. For everyone else that's out there, one more thing before you go. Have a great day. Have a great week. And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to this episode of One More Thing Before You Go. Check out our website at beforeyougopodcast.com. You can find us as well as subscribe to the program and rate us on your favorite podcast listening platform.